My name's Norma Miller, and I'm the Manager of Government Relations with the BC Real Estate Association. For much of this year, we have asked realtors and member boards for input on the property transfer tax. Since 1987, BCREA has encouraged the provincial government to either eliminate or reduce the negative impact of the PTT, but we haven't been successful because the tax brings in about $1 billion every year. So our initiative now is designed to strike a balance between fairness and affordability for buyers with the province's need for revenue. Over the summer, we compiled the feedback that we got from realtors, and then the BCREA Economics Department analyzed the most viable options. So I'm going to give you a really quick overview of those options, and I just want to point out that it's based on data from 2014. So the first option that was by far the most popular among realtors was to increase the 1% threshold. Raising the threshold to $525,000, which is what we've recommended since 2010, would benefit buyers all around the province. Unfortunately, it would also decrease tax revenue by about $200 million. So it wouldn't be revenue neutral, and it isn't something the province has expressed any interest in the last 5 years. The second option was to charge a higher rate for out-of-country buyers. This is something the BCREA economists examined over the summer, and what they found with existing data for the City of Vancouver is that foreign buyers only account for 3 to 5% of the market. On its own, this wouldn't have a big enough impact to make any difference. And BC's finance minister said this isn't a road he really wants to go down anyway, so this is a non-starter. The third option is to introduce a regional approach based on prices. On the face of it, that sounds like a pretty good idea, but there is a pretty significant drawback in that while buyers in high-priced urban areas would pay less, the revenue shortfall would have to be made up by everybody else in the province. That means people living outside of urban areas would have to pay more tax. There's also no economic reason to treat two different properties at the same price differently, especially when the only difference between them is where they're located. The fourth option is to charge a flat tax on commercial properties. A 2% flat tax would result in about an $8 million increase in tax revenue. So for that minor increase, that minor benefit to the province, may not be worth the confusion that could cause by changing the structure. On its own, we're not sure that works either. The fifth and final option that we examined is to charge more tax at the higher end of the residential market. The finance minister has said he's considering this in terms of a three-tiered structure, and that's the way we've analyzed it as well. And we've looked at two different thresholds at the high end of the market. So the first scenario is charging 1% up to $525,000, 2% between $525,000 and $1.25 million, and then 5% above that. That would be revenue neutral. About 6% of homes are priced at $1.25 million or above, and most of those are in the Vancouver Board area. The big shift here is that under the current system, about 10%, the top 10% of buyers pay about 40% of the property transfer tax. In this scenario, that top 10% would pay about 60% of the property transfer tax. That's a big shift. The other threshold we looked at is 8% at $2 million and above. So that would also be revenue neutral. It would also affect mostly the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, but only 2.5% of homes are priced at $2 million or above. And those 2.5% of homes would account for about 38% of the property transfer tax. An unintended consequence of that scenario could be that buyers at that very high end get creative about how they can avoid paying the property transfer tax. That isn't something we can account for in our analysis, but it's something that really should be considered. So that's a really quick overview of those options. The full analysis is available on BCREA's Realtor Link site, the Lobbying and Legislation page. And we also have an online survey that we'd really appreciate realtors completing. You can see the link on the screen. Thank you so much for your interest and your participation in this very important issue.